What's going on, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson with HawgSports.com here from Bud Walton Arena. Oh man, what could have been a special night in Fayetteville was spoiled by Mississippi State. The Hogs fall 70-64 here at home to the Bulldogs. Wow, the stage was really set for this one if you think about it. Huge home crowd has been dying to get in this place. The last two home games have been impacted by ice and wintry weather. It's a Saturday afternoon. The place was packed. You have a red-hot Razorback team that's won 5 straight SEC games, returning home, coming off that big win against Kentucky. The return of star freshman Nick Smith Jr., all the ingredients were there for the Razorbacks, who just kind of fell flat in this one tonight, unfortunately. Listen, the Bulldogs were having none of it, and credit to them, because sometimes when you have a loss like this, you get frustrated and you're looking for all the different reasons to blame Arkansas. What went wrong? What did they do wrong? Well, there were certainly some issues there, but Mississippi State deserves a lot of credit for coming in and doing what they did on the road. Chris Jans is doing a great job with that team. They've won 5 in a row now. They're playing well, but man, a frustrating result for the Razorbacks. You knew coming into this game that Mississippi State was elite on the defensive end of the floor, top 5 in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency, holding teams under 60 points per game. They're hard to score on. They force a bunch of turnovers. We saw a lot of that. They gave Arkansas fits and kept them out of a rhythm really throughout the entire game, but especially in the first half. Arkansas just had a hard time getting anything going. This is a Razorback team that likes to get downhill, and man, they could get into the paint, but there were arms and hands swatting and trying to get deflections and fish those balls out. They were double teaming in the post. They gave Jalen Graham some fits in there when he got his run. They were doing a lot of things that caused Arkansas problems. They were going from man to zone. They were trapping. The Hogs just couldn't find a rhythm on the offensive end of the floor. Arkansas struggling to score, especially early on. I wouldn't say that was, maybe it was unsurprising. Maybe it was expected to a degree. What was not expected, though, was a Mississippi State team, who came in averaging about 60 points per game in SEC play. They're shooting 24% from 3 in SEC play. They hadn't scored over 67 points against a team in this league to come in and shoot over 50% from the field, go 6 of 10 from 3, and score 70 on the Razorbacks. That was unexpected, at least for me, and I think probably for the Hogs and the coaching staff as well. I mentioned in the lead up to the game, I wrote a story about this, just kind of avoiding the letdown after an emotional road win against Kentucky, and then you come back home and have all these factors. It would be hard to convince me that this was anything other than that. Again, credit to Mississippi State for playing a great game. They did the things you have to do to win on the road. But listen, Arkansas, the intensity and the focus that we've seen from this group of late, it just wasn't there for the full 40 minutes, not even close to that. Arkansas got down by as many as 16 at home to Mississippi State in the second half before something clicked. They flipped the switch, eventually cut that thing down to as little as 4, but it was too little too late at that point. You can't dig yourself into a 16-point hole at home or on the road, especially to a team that defends the way that Mississippi State does. A 9-point halftime deficit felt like 15 or more because there's such a challenge to score on. It was a spirited comeback by the Razorbacks in that final 15 minutes there. I think it was made possible by a huge increase in defensive intensity. They started playing the way that they have been, which, hey, good on them for figuring it out on that end. And free throws. Right? It's crazy that Arkansas was able to fight back into this thing in the midst of another 7-minute stretch where they go without a bucket from the field. They were getting stops and they were getting to the free throw line, but they went 7 minutes again without a bucket until Ricky Council got his only make of the night from the field on a reverse dunk. That was awesome, by the way, but that was it from the field. He was 11 of 13 from the free throw line, which is great. But when you look up at the end of the day, and you've got Devo and Ricky Council, who are 3 of 17 combined from the field, it's going to be tough for Arkansas to score enough points to beat teams. It just is. And those guys have been great, really all year, and they've kind of catalyzed what Arkansas has done in terms of getting the ship righted. But when both of them have an off night, that puts you in a tough spot. Anthony Black, I thought played well. He scored, it was a game-high 23 points. He was 8 of 13 from the field. He knocked down some big threes. I thought for the first time that I can recall all season that he was consistently getting into the mid-range and pulling up and shooting that thing with confidence, and he was knocking it down. Those are all good signs from AB. 5 assists. He did have 4 turnovers. Again, this is a Mississippi State team that forces those things, but I thought maybe he was a bright spot there for the Razorbacks. You mentioned the struggles from the field with Devo and Ricky. Didn't get much offensively from Jordan Walsh. He seemed a little bit hesitant in this game. Only 2 points from him. I thought he was active on the defensive end of the floor, but you didn't get much scoring there. And then Mekhi Mitchell, a guy who starts for you, and he fouls out in 11 minutes. That ain't great. That puts Arkansas in a tough spot. So, listen, for those concerned about, will the return of Nick impact chemistry or disrupt the flow or the rhythm that this team has kind of picked up over this stretch of SEC play where they've been playing really well, that wasn't it. Okay, that had nothing to do with the outcome of this game. Nick, he had 5 points. He was 2 of 7 from the field. He didn't have a turnover, but he was +3 on the floor for Arkansas. He's one of 2 guys, I think, who had a plus in the plus-minus column for this game. I thought he was just kind of feeling his way through it in his first couple rotations in the first half. But Arkansas was down 16 there with 15 minutes to play in this game when Musselman went back to him, and he was the catalyst. His energy, his intensity, especially on the defensive end of the floor, he's picking dudes up full court, getting popped by screens and hopping back up. He was challenging guys at the rim, and then he was playing aggressive and assertive. He knocked down that pull-up jumper. I think it brought Arkansas to within 12 or whatever, but it got the crowd going. It brought some juice into the building. So I thought he was a big catalyst for Arkansas making that run to get back in this thing. Was he rusty? Yeah, of course he was. He hasn't played basketball in 2 months. If you were expecting him to just come in and drop 30 in this game, you were living in a false reality. But I think you saw some really good things. He was able to get to his spots. He had some pep in his step. I thought he was moving well. And some of the shots that weren't falling for him are going to be falling in about a week. I can guarantee you that. He's rusty, but he's not that far off. And then listen, the passion that he played with, the competitiveness that he showed, for anybody who's still questioning whether or not he's committed to being a Razorback, or if he was really coming back for the right reasons or whatever, hopefully that shuts you up. Okay, because this dude is bought all the way in. He was into it. He was fully invested in the success of the team. And this one, it was really good to see. I've said here for a while that I wouldn't be entirely surprised if Arkansas dropped one that they weren't supposed to, as they're kind of getting Nick reintegrated into the mix, right? Wouldn't surprise me at all, but that the long-term ceiling for Arkansas is much higher if you have him involved. We can all agree on that. He's an elite talent. I think what's frustrating about this night really is that Arkansas takes a bad loss, at home to Mississippi State on a night where Nick looked pretty good for a guy who hadn't played in a couple months, but the team kind of faltered throughout there. It was an uncharacteristic effort. If Arkansas plays anywhere close to the way, just in terms of intensity and focus, that they did, against Kentucky or in previous home games against Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, they win this game tonight, hands down. But they didn't do that for a good 25-plus minutes, and it cost you. In an SEC where, hey, even the middle of the pack, there are no easy outs there in this league. So, Arkansas had a chance here just with the way everything's shaken out. If they would have won this game tonight, they would have been tied for 4th in the SEC standings. That's how you get that double bye in Nashville, because Auburn lost. They fell to 7-5. Who else lost? Florida lost. They fell back a spot. Missouri's at 7-5 now. Kentucky lost again. They're at 7-5. Arkansas would have won. They would have moved to 7-5 and been in great spot. But instead, they still have some work to do here. It's kind of crazy. 2 losses in this building in Bud Walton Arena for the first time in 3 years. Arkansas has been nails in here under Eric Musselman the last couple years. So I'm not going to lie. I kind of walked into this facility tonight with zero expectation, or the thought really never crossed my mind that Arkansas might lose this game. It really didn't. But here we are. So, a blemish there on the resume. I thought Arkansas really helped themselves at Kentucky. took a step back tonight. They're still in a solid spot in terms of making the NCAA tournament, but if you want to improve your seed, you've got some work to do, and that margin of error has been decreased again for this team. They give themselves some wiggle room, but you drop one at home, and then you run into a situation where you got to be a little bit more sharp. You can't avoid any more slip-ups like this moving forward down the stretch, because it's not going to get much easier. In these final 6 games for the Hogs, you still got to go to Alabama. You still got to go to Tennessee. You got a road game, a rematch at Texas A&M. That's not going to be easy on Wednesday, and the home slate's no joke either. So still a lot of work to be done for this team. How are they going to respond? That's always what you wonder about after a game that you lose, that you don't feel like you're supposed to. Is it going to snowball? Are there going to be any lingering effects from it? Or is it going to serve as a wake-up call? Do you go out against Texas A&M with a greater sense of urgency? Is there a bounce back for the Hogs? Because that would be a big one on the road. It's a quad one opportunity. A&M is 10-2, 11-2, whatever it is in the league. You get a sweep over them. That would help you a ton. How will the Hogs respond? We'll see. We'll see what happens. But like I said, a frustrating loss tonight. It shouldn't happen, but it did. You can still build off of some of the things that you saw down the stretch, and then I think the silver lining here is that you got Nick back. He's not on a minutes restriction. They still got to figure out some things with lineups and rotations, but he's a little bit closer, maybe a little bit further along than I expected him to be after such a prolonged absence. Once you get him rolling, you get everybody into a flow together, I still think this team can be dangerous, but we're kind of hitting that stretch where there's a little bit of urgency in getting it figured out quickly. Appreciate you guys as always. I expected to be on here having a happy talk after a win over Mississippi State. It didn't work out the way any of us expected. Frustrating loss for the Razorbacks tonight against Mississippi State. Again, this has been Curtis Wilkerson with HawgSports.com. Appreciate you guys as always, and we'll catch you next time.